It all begins with a mad scientist conducting experiments on an ant. His idea is to use it to strengthen his legs, since a severe inflammation causes him terrible pain and makes it difficult for him to walk. During one of his experiments, he accidentally drops a microscope on the ant he is studying, but the insect manages to escape. Meanwhile, we meet Pell, a 12-year-old boy who feels like he does not belong anywhere. To him, life is like being a tiny ant in a huge anthill, someone insignificant that nobody pays attention to. His greatest wish is to have some special ability that would make him different from everyone else. At school, there is also Amanda Somerstead, a girl who attracts everyone's attention because of her beauty and personality. Even though she and Pell are in the same class, they have barely ever spoken to each other. That day, their teacher assigns a project due the following week. The students must give a presentation about a living person who has done something important for the city. Ida, Amanda's sister, comments that there is nobody interesting in town. The teacher replies that she could always talk about her own father, the CEO of Exofarm, a company that conducts experiments using insects. After that, the teacher asks everyone to pair up and work together. Amanda looks around for a partner and Pell even smiles at her, thinking she might choose him. But in the end, she picks another classmate instead. When class is over, Pell sees two bullies picking on Wilhelm, a boy from his class. Trying to help him, Pell throws an apple and manages to distract them, but that only causes the bullies to turn their attention toward him. Pell runs away and hides in some bushes. It turns out he has wandered into the backyard of Dr. G-Melker, the scientist who conducts experiments on insects. While he remains hidden, the escaped ant crawls up his leg. When the bullies finally leave, Pell takes the opportunity to explore the place a little, but just then the insect bites him. He manages to catch the ant, but almost immediately he starts feeling strange. His vision becomes blurry, and before passing out, he catches sight of a man's silhouette approaching him. Hours later, Pell wakes up and returns home. His parents are very worried because they had no idea where he had been. He lies and tells them he was playing soccer with some classmates, then heads straight to bed because he is too exhausted to even eat dinner. That night, he has strange nightmares involving ants. The next morning, he wakes up with an enormous appetite and starts devouring every piece of candy and food he can find in the refrigerator. He then discovers that during the night he completely trashed his room, leaving food wrappers and leftovers scattered everywhere. During breakfast, his parents watch a news report featuring Mr. Somerstead, who talks about the theft of thousands of genetically modified fleas belonging to Exofarm. As he eats, Pell begins noticing that something unusual is happening to his body. First, he accidentally crushes a cereal box in his hands without meaning to. Then he tries to pick up a glass of juice and ends up breaking it, realizing that he is now much stronger than before. When he arrives at school, he walks through the hallways so quickly that he accidentally bumps into Wilhelm, the boy he defended the day before. Wilhelm, who is a huge comic book fan, sees Pell accidentally rip a doorknob off a door and immediately starts suspecting that he has superpowers. Later, during gym class, the teacher challenges the students to face him in combat and chooses Pell as the first participant. The teacher attacks him with a giant padded swab, and although Pell tries to defend himself, he ends up being knocked out of the circle. But when he is given a second chance, the boy decides to give it everything he has. After dodging several attacks and blocking the teacher's strike, Pell sends him flying through the air with incredible strength. Shocked by what he has just done, he runs out of the gym while Wilhelm excitedly confirms that his theory was right. When school is over, Pell heads home, but Wilhelm follows him to ask where those amazing powers came from. Just then, Pell spots Dr. G-Melker, the strange scientist from the house where he was bitten, entering the property. Surprised, he decides to ignore Wilhelm and quickly leave. Even though he still does not understand how he got his abilities, Pell is thrilled by the idea of becoming a superhero, especially because he believes it might help him get Amanda's attention. While imagining a battle using his teddy bear, he accidentally smashes part of his bedroom wall and realizes just how powerful he really is. The next morning during recess, Pell finally tells Wilhelm the truth and explains that he gained his abilities after being bitten by an ant. Fascinated by the story, Wilhelm decides to help him become a real superhero. After school, he invites Pell to his house, where Pell is amazed by his friend's huge collection of toys, action figures, and comic books. Together, they begin researching the true abilities of ants and discover that these insects have one of the strongest bites in the animal kingdom. To test it, Wilhelm asks Pell to bite a book. Both of them are stunned when he easily tears a chunk out of the pages. They continue testing other abilities and discover that Pell now has an incredibly powerful sense of smell. However, they also learn something important. Even though he has ant powers, he cannot fly. Determined to turn him into a real hero, Wilhelm begins helping him design a costume. After searching for ideas online and trying out several different styles, they finally come up with the perfect suit. Later, in the school bathroom, Pell discovers another rather unusual ability. By accident, he releases an acid similar to the one ants use to defend themselves. With the suit and mask finished, the two friends now need a name for their new hero. After considering several options, they decide that Antboy is perfect, especially since Ant-Man already exists and Pell is still just a kid. Soon afterward, they begin patrolling the city in search of opportunities to stop criminals. While watching over a parking lot, Wilhelm goes into a store to buy some candy, and at that exact moment Pell witnesses a robbery. Wearing the Antboy suit for the very first time, he chases after the thief and demands that he return what he stole. The criminal is terrified when he sees Antboy climbing a wall using nothing but his hands, so he tries to run away, but Antboy manages to catch him. A few minutes later, the police arrive and arrest the thief. Pell hides before Wilhelm returns, then excitedly tells him everything that happened. Pell tries to show him how he climbs walls, but strangely enough, he can no longer do it. Later, they discover the reason. Pell needs to consume sugar to restore his energy and keep his powers active. Wilhelm then creates a special utility belt for him to carry candy during his missions. He also gives him a small communicator so they can stay in contact while fighting crime. As the weeks pass, Antboy starts appearing on every news broadcast and quickly becomes famous throughout the city. People are eager to find out who is hiding behind the mask. His small heroic acts, such as saving a man after an accident or rescuing a baby trapped inside a burning building, make him even more popular, especially among kids his own age. For the first time in his life, Pell feels happy and appreciated. He no longer sees himself as an insignificant ant lost inside a giant anthill. Antboy even begins to see himself as the city's protector and decides to stand up against any bully or criminal he comes across, including the troublemakers who pick on kids at his school. One night, Amanda is in her room working on her school project. Instead of doing her presentation about her father, she decides to talk about Antboy and everything he has done for the city. But suddenly, while looking into her mirror, she catches sight of the reflection of a terrifying man standing behind her. Amanda begins screaming in panic. Hearing her cries, Ida rushes to the room to help, but she arrives too late. Amanda has vanished, and the only thing left behind is her necklace. The next morning, while Pell is in class, he suddenly hears a student desperately calling for help. Everyone quickly rushes outside to see what is happening, and at that moment Antboy appears, climbing up the side of the building to rescue the supposed student in danger. However, when he reaches the victim, he discovers that the whole thing is fake. The student turns out to be nothing more than a dummy, and everything was part of a trap organized by Ida to get Antboy's attention and ask for his help in rescuing Amanda. Ida then shows him a video that her father received earlier that morning. In the recording, Amanda can be seen trapped inside a glass cell. The kidnapper, a mysterious criminal who calls himself Lee, demands $20 million as ransom and also orders Mr. Summerstead to resign from his position as CEO of Exiform. Desperate, Ida begs Antboy to help find her sister. Pell decides to take her to the secret headquarters, which is actually Wilhelm's bedroom. After watching the video, Wilhelm claims that Mr. Sommerstedt is basically a real-life Lex Luthor, a powerful businessman who pretends to be an upstanding citizen but is really obsessed with power and money. Ida becomes furious when she hears them speaking badly about her father, but with Amanda's life on the line, she agrees to keep helping and tells them who the possible suspects might be. She shows them the necklace Amanda was wearing on the day she was kidnapped, and thanks to his enhanced sense of smell, Pell discovers that he can track people using the scent left on objects. Following the trail, the group eventually arrives at the same place where Pell was bitten by the ant. At that moment, all the pieces begin to fall into place. Even though he is afraid to go inside, Pell decides to face his fears in order to save Amanda. His sense of smell leads him to a locked door in the basement. He then uses his strange acid ability to melt the lock and gain access. Inside, he discovers a secret laboratory filled with trees, insects, and strange creatures trapped inside display cases. While he explores the facility, Wilhelm and Ida remain outside, communicating with him through the transmitter. Not long afterward, Pell finally finds Amanda imprisoned inside a cell and starts looking for a way to free her. But just then, he hears something approaching. To his surprise, Flea, the mysterious villain behind the kidnapping, appears before him. Antboy is soon captured as well and demands that the man release Amanda, insisting that she has never done anything to hurt him. However, Flea replies that everything is part of his revenge against Amanda's father, whom he blames for ruining his life. The villain then reveals his story. Before becoming Flea, he worked at Exofarm. For years, he developed a revolutionary serum created from a rare species of ant. According to him, the medicine had the potential to cure almost any disease. The first person to receive the treatment was his own mother, Mrs. G. Melker. Thanks to the serum, the tumor she suffered from began shrinking little by little. But just when the results seemed promising, Sommerstedt decided to cut costs at the company and canceled the project to save money. Furious, the scientist tried to convince the board of directors to continue funding the research, but all he accomplished was getting himself fired. Sometime later, his mother died from the disease, and from that moment on, he began planning his revenge. In secret, he continued conducting experiments in his own laboratory. This time, he worked with fleas and developed another serum capable of curing the arthritis in his legs, while also granting him superhuman strength. But unlike Pell, who only needs sugar to maintain his powers, Flea must consume large amounts of blood to keep from growing weak. The villain also reveals that he knows Antboy's true identity. He then mocks Pell, telling him that if it were not for his powers, Amanda would never have even noticed that he existed. Just then, Flea hears police sirens approaching the house. Through the communicator, Ida and Wilhelm had overheard the entire conversation and decided to call the authorities for help. Knowing that he is surrounded, the villain quickly escapes before the police enter the basement and rescue Amanda and Antboy. After everything that has happened, Pell feels completely defeated. He believes that he was never truly a great hero, but merely a small ant imagining himself stronger than he really was. Convinced that he is not cut out for this, he decides to give up being Antboy. Wilhelm tries to change his mind, reminding him that Flea is still free and remains a threat. But Pell, angry and disappointed, hands over the suit and tells him that if he wants to catch the villain so badly, then he should become Antboy himself. The following day, Pell watches Amanda telling her friends about everything she experienced during the kidnapping. He then remembers Flea's cruel words and starts thinking that maybe the villain was right. If it were not for Antboy's powers, Amanda would never have noticed him. Now Pell once again feels invisible and alone. Even Wilhelm has become distant from him. The boy comes to the conclusion that perhaps it is better to go unnoticed than to become the center of attention. But suddenly, in the middle of class, the school erupts into chaos as students begin running frantically through the hallways. At that moment, Wilhelm appears and tells Pell that Flea is attacking the school. Hearing this, Pell panics and decides to stay away, insisting that the police will handle the situation. However, Wilhelm is determined to stop the villain on his own. He grabs several cans of insect spray from a storage closet, puts on the Antboy suit, and heads out to confront Flea. As he moves through the hallways, he finds a little girl hiding inside a locker and tells her to escape as quickly as possible. Shortly afterward, Flea appears, smashing lockers apart while searching for his next victim. When the girl manages to get out of the school, she tells everyone that Antboy saved her. As soon as Pell hears this, he immediately realizes that the person wearing the suit is actually Wilhelm and understands that his friend is in serious danger. Without wasting a second, he rushes off to find him. While searching, he enters the theater room and discovers a costume identical to Antboy's, but at that exact moment, Flea appears, realizes that he has caught an imposter, and decides to go after Pell instead. The problem is that Pell's powers are fading because he has gone hours without eating any sugar. So while running away, he desperately searches for a vending machine to restore his energy. However, before he can save Wilhelm, Flea manages to capture him and escapes into the forest. Antboy immediately grabs a bicycle and rides after them. During the chase, he finds Wilhelm's glasses lying on the path and uses them to track his scent. He eventually discovers that Wilhelm has been tied to a tree and is being used as bait to lure him in. Before the two boys can escape, Flea appears and violently throws Pell aside. Even so, Wilhelm manages to free himself and contacts Antboy to come up with a plan. While Wilhelm hides behind a tree, Pell distracts the villain. Flea then begins feeding on blood to regain his strength, but Wilhelm quietly sneaks up behind him and destroys the container where he keeps his supply. The liquid begins to spill everywhere, and the villain's powers quickly start fading away. Seizing the opportunity, Antboy faces Flea head-on and knocks him down with a powerful punch. The villain tries to get back up, but the inflammation in his joints returns, and he can barely remain standing. Pell, on the other hand, is now stronger than ever. Just like an ant, he is capable of lifting many times his own body weight, and he uses that incredible strength to send Flea flying and defeat him once and for all. After his first major victory as a superhero, Pell and Wilhelm return home while watching the news report about Dr. G. Melker's arrest on television. At last, the villain is convicted for all the crimes he committed against the city. Following Flea's arrest, life in the city gradually returns to normal. At school and across every news broadcast, people can talk about only one thing: Antboy. Even Mr. Somerstead appears on television to publicly thank the hero for saving his daughter and helping stop the villain. That same evening, Pell goes to visit Amanda. The girl excitedly thanks him for rescuing her, and convinced that she is standing in front of the hero she admires, leans in to kiss him. But to Amanda's surprise, Antboy tells her that he actually came there to talk to Ida. Hearing that, Amanda immediately becomes furious. Accustomed to always being the center of attention, she cannot stand being ignored and storms off in frustration. Afterward, Pell finally gets the chance to thank Ida for all the help she gave him during the search for Amanda. However, what surprises him the most is discovering that Ida had known from the very beginning that he was Antboy. The next day, Wilhelm visits Pell with a brand new idea. Inspired by all the adventures they have shared, he now wants to officially become Antboy's sidekick. He has already started designing his own costume and suggests that they fight crime together, just like Batman and Robin. Don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know what you think about this movie.